In the last videos, we have been looking at the new political structures of our country. The Constitution, starting out with Washington as the first presidency, Adams, going on to significant things that happened during this, what you might call the infancy of our country, the doubling the landmass with the Louisiana Purchase, our first declaration of war against England, and some of the consequences of that, the rise in the pride of our nation, and the different, how political parties formed, and the different perspective towards government, federalists and anti-federalists. And as all this was shaping, especially in the political arena of our country, a very significant other parallel thing was happening with industry and inventions. And we're going to start looking at what were the things, besides the political situations during this time, but some of the inventions and some of the technologies back then that were remarkable. And just as technology today has revolutionized our lives, we're going to look at how technology back then and new inventions revolutionized our country. Some of the vocabulary and some of the significant inventors we will be talking about. And so what exactly is this whole technology and these new inventions? What exactly is this when we say it's an industrial revolution? And this is a very concrete definition that will explain it. It is a time when machines were invented that now do the work that humans used to do. And so normally a human would, let's say, create a gun, create a whole gun, and now they're developing machines to create the gun and interchangeable parts. Normally you would create cloth by hand, and now they have the spinning loom and the cotton gin to help clean the cotton so they can make the cloth. So things that people had done by hand are now being done by a machine, faster and more efficient. So where did this begin, and what started all this? And it really began in England in the textile or cloth industry. This is a picture of how thread normally was created. They would shear the sheep, they would take the sheep's wool, and they would twist it and turn it and put it on the spinning wheel that would turn the fibers of the sheep's wool to a tight thread. And then from those threads, they would weave them on a loom to create cloth, or they would use that to make yarn, and they would knit articles of clothing. But in 1764, and remember that date because we were still colonies of the king, Richard Arkwright invented a thread spinning machine powered by water. So instead of a human doing it, and a human will get tired, and there's some limitations, now when you have a consistent flow of water, the machine does not ever have to stop. And so you'll get much more product. These textile machines were in mills that were built next to the rivers for their power sources. And so what's the big deal? So what? They can make cloth faster. Well, during this time, people did their work at home, and now where do they have to go? They have to go to the factory. They have to go to a place outside their home to create these things. The factory system, it brings workers and machines together in one place. Now people began to leave farms and move to where the factories were, and thus that created towns. And no longer did they get up in the morning and they kind of decide their day with all the jobs that they had to do, and that they really set the pace for how quickly they would do those jobs. Now they're moving to towns and places where these factories are, and the factory says, we're open at 7 a.m. And now there are limitations on how they spend their time. So workers went to work at a place that wasn't their home. They had to work certain hours, and now time becomes important. People used to say, well, I'll get that done tomorrow, I'll get that done in the morning, or I'll get that done in the afternoon. And now people begin to think like, I'll get that done at 8 a.m. This will take 2 hours. And their days, instead of being kind of open, now are beginning to be controlled and divided by time. Workers, the other big thing, now that time, workers, instead of having choice, now have to go by the time the factory starts, the time limit they're supposed to work. But now workers had to keep pace with the machines. At home, if you were spinning the thread yourself, you could do it for 45 minutes, take a break, maybe go do something else. But not now, not if a machine is being run by a stream, by water. You have to keep pace with the pace of the water that it runs the machine. And so instead of people kind of having some control, they really had to learn to adapt to the machines and the time and the pace. This developed in England first, and then America. So as this developed in England, America began to rebel, and they won their independence. So now America wants these things too. And we will talk later about how that happened. There are a couple major results from these new industries. And one thing is having something powered by water, a continual source, created a revolution in transportation. A huge growth in the new inventions created brand new industries. And we could equate that or see a parallel to the establishment of the internet. Most of you, the internet has been here since you were born. Some of us, it really hasn't. And so, and the total transformation in our world in terms of news and communications based on that. These industries impacted very much how America developed. Remember, America just declared their independence, and all these new factors are impacting how America is going to develop. It would be as if in the 1990s a new country came into being, and they are being molded and developed by our new technologies.
Deja Frazier, please come to the front office. Deja Frazier.
How an idea leads to creating an invention that changes society. And what really has happened is that people get ideas. They look at something. We see it today with space travel and trying to develop where people can have communities out in space. They get an idea and they begin to create an invention that will accomplish that and that automatically changes society. So we're going to take a moment and look at, now that America has just become independent and this new industrial revolution, these new machines and factories have become established in England, how that technology and that information gets transferred to America. America, it essentially is just born. How does it impact and influence our country? And we'll look at the inventions that made a difference in the next video.